We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph and Meseches Kesuvos. This is Kesuvos Daf 52a. The Gemara here continues with the rulings of Abaya. Abaya says, Mamzeres or Nesina li Yisrael. Let's say you have a situation of a Mamzeres or a Nesina that marry Yisrael. This also is a forbidden relationship. So in that case, in contrast to the case on the previous Amud of Almona L'Kohen Gadol, in this case, Eino Chayiv Liftosa. He is not Chayiv to redeem her because you cannot fulfill the line in the Ksuba. Because here the Ksuba, what does it say? She'ein ani korei bavo zvinach lila into, because I cannot fulfill the line in the Ksuba which says that I will take you for a wife. In other words, by Mamzeres and Nesina to Yisrael, so there the Ksuba would say that I'm chayiv, that I'm going to redeem you, and when I redeem you, I'm going to take you back as a wife. Now that's not possible in the case of a Mamzeres and a Nesina. That's again in contrast to the Almona L'Kohen Gadol, so there the Ksuba doesn't say that she's going to be taken back as a wife, because we're talking about a Kohen. When she's taken captive, she's just returned to her Medina, and that can be done, and therefore in that case he does have to redeem her. Rashi over here says, Mamzeres and Nesina li Yisrael, afagav de isla ksuba, tanai ksuba, de lemishkal umepak. Now, even though there's a ksuba and there's a condition of ksuba, but that's only for when she leaves the marriage. Les la tanai ksuba de pirkona, to make her lo ishtabidla. But there is no tanai ksuba in terms of redeeming her, because again, this was not a relationship which she was meshubit for that purpose in this regard, again, because it was a forbidden relationship. And the Gemara continues, Rava Amar Rava says, Kol she'isr shavia gorimla. Anytime you have a situation where the fact that there's a prohibition because she was taken captive, that's what causes it. So chayiv liftosa. So then in such a situation, he does have to redeem her. But isr davar acher gorimla. But if there's some other isr that's causing that he's not allowed to marry her, eino chayiv liftosa. So then he's not chayiv to redeem her. Rashi over here says, we'll read the Rashi on the last one as well. She'inani kori bavo svinach into. Again, when it comes to the Mamzeres and Nesina, you cannot fulfill that line in the ksuba of marrying her. Shezeu tanai ksuba li Yisraelis, because again, this is a case of Yisraelis. That is the tanai that's written into the ksuba, and that cannot be fulfilled, as we said. Rava Amar, now Rava says, B'mamzeres u'nesina ka'abaya svirale. So Rashi explains, when it comes to the case of Mamzeres and Nesina, it's a forbidden relationship. Rava agrees with Abaya. There's no obligation for him to return her, to redeem her, to lo ishtabidla, because again, there's no shibud in that regard. Aval be'almona l'kohen gadol, but when it comes to the first case of Abaya, of almona to a kohen gadol, which also is a forbidden relationship, there Abaya said he does have to redeem her. Poligales, so Rav is arguing with Abaya. V'yamar, he says, meikar lo ishtabid l'kohenes. Originally, there's no shibud in terms of a kohenes. That's the case over here. Ve'adrinach lemedintach ela machmas she'osra hashvuya olav. In other words, in that case, it's only because of the fact that there was a forbidden relationship because of the fact she was taken captive. But if you have a situation like in this case where it's an almona l'kohen gadol, it's not just a regular situation of a kohenes. It's a case of an almona l'kohen gadol where there's an additional prohibition, not just the prohibition of being taken captive. In other words, when you have a situation of a kohen and he's married and then that woman gets taken captive, so the issue is that she's forbidden to him because she was taken captive. And again, even in a situation of rape or something similar, there's a prohibition for a kohen, but that's only because of the captivity. But over here, where it's almona l'kohen gadol, there is an additional prohibition. So in such a situation, avol neseres machmas davar acher lo nishtabed. The tanai ksuba de Yisrael v'kohen shavin. The tanai ksuba is equal by Yisrael and kohen, and there's no shibud in a situation again where there's an isser machmas davar acher. Elasha kohen masne imo shafilo teyaser olav machmas shvi yasel lo tifat lo tafsid ksubas pirkon. It's just again by a regular situation of a kohen, you have a tanai that even though she becomes forbidden to him through the captivity, still she's not going to lose out on that, and she still will be redeemed. And so that's why Rava says in both of these situations he is not obligated to redeem her. And the Gemara continues, Leima ketanoi. Let us say that this machlokis that we just had between Abai and Rava, let us suggest that this is a machlokis tanoim. Hamader is ishto v'nishbis. Let's say you have a situation, a person takes a neder in terms of deriving benefit from his wife, and then she's captured. Rashi over here says, Hamader is ishto milehonos lo, again from this situation in terms of deriving benefit, and then she gets captured. Rabbi Eliezer omer poda v'nosin laksubasa. Rabbi Eliezer says he still redeems her, and he gives her ksuba. Rabbi Yoshua omer, Rabbi Yoshua says nosin laksubasa. He does give her the ksuba, v'yeno poda, but he's not obligated in terms of redeeming her. Rashi over here says, Poda v'afa pisha sofa lagarsha. Machmas neder. Now, in other words, Rabbi Eliezer is saying he redeems her, even though he's already taken a neder, he's taken an oath, he can't derive any benefit from her, he's not going to marry her, he's going to end up divorcing her. Still, the situation over here is he redeems her, and he gives her the ksuba. And again, Rabbi Yoshua says, Ve'eno poda l'kamon mefarish time, and we'll explain the reason for Rabbi Yoshua later on. And the Gemara continues. Amar Rabbi Nosson says, Sha'alti es sumchis. So I asked Sumchis the following question. Amar Rabbi Yoshua nosein lo ksubasa ve'eno poda. When Rabbi Yoshua says that he gives her the ksuba but he does not redeem her, what exactly is the situation over here? Hidira ulvasof nishbis is the case where there was a neder made first and then she was taken captive. O benishbis ulvasof hidira, or is the case when she was taken captive and the neder was made after she was taken captive. V'yomar, and he said, Lini said to me, Lo shamati, I don't know the answer. I didn't hear the answer to this. V'nir and devarim, but it seems logical to say shehidiro levasof nishbis, that the case over here is where the neder was first and then she was taken captive. Diamrin nishbis levasof hedira, because if you're going to say she was taken captive and only then he makes the neder, so asilurume, so then already he's able to use that as a loophole and he can essentially make the neder after, and that gets him out of the obligation to redeem her. Rashi over here says, "O benishbis ulevasof hedira," or is it in a case where she's captured and then there's an eder? Kilomar o afilu kishenishbis ulevasof hedira. Meaning to say, was he saying this even in a situation he doesn't have to redeem her, even in a situation where the neder came after she was captured? Ulevasof hedira nami omer. He even said it over there. V'avagav dikol meimer. Even though in that case you can say lo hedira eli potrim and hapidyon. He only made that neder because he wanted to get out of the redemption, and so that was the question. And he says again, it's going to be asilu rume. The person is going to use a kind of a loophole in order to get out of it, and therefore it doesn't make sense in the situation of nishbis ulevasof hedira. And the Gemara continues, Leime ketanoi, let us say that this machlokus between Abai and Rava is also machlokus tanoi. It says in the Braisa, Hamadir is ishto, let's say a person makes a neder in terms of his wife. He says that his wife is not allowed to derive benefit from him. Vinishbis, and then she's captured. So in that situation over here, he's not going to be able to remarry her if he redeems her. So is there still an obligation for him to redeem her? Rabbi Eliezer says, Poda v'nosein la ksubasa. He does have to redeem her, and he gives her ksuba as well. Rabbi Yoshua says, no sin la ksubasa, he does give her ksuba, v'yeino poda, but he's not obligated to redeem her. And the Gemara continues, the Brisa continues, Amar Rabbi Nosson says, Sha'alti es Sumchis, I asked Sumchis the following question, Kisha Amar Rabbi Yoshua, when Rabbi Yoshua said, no sein la ksubasa ve'eno poda, he said he gives her the ksuba, but there's no obligation to redeem her. So Kisha hidira ulevasof nishbis, is that only in a situation where the neder came first and then she was captured? Oh, benishbis ulevasof hedira, or is it even in a situation where she was captured and then he makes the neder, saying she can't get any benefit from him? So in that case also would Rabbi Yoshua say that he doesn't have to redeem her? V'yamar li, and he responded to me, Lo shamati, I did not hear the answer to this question. V'nir and devarim, but it seems logical to say shehidira ulevasof nishbis, that the husband only does not have to redeem his wife in a situation where the neder came first and then she was captured. Diamrit nishbis ulevasof hedira, because if you're going to say that even in a situation where she was captured and then the husband makes the neder, even then he's potter, so asili rume, so then he's going to use that as a loophole. He's essentially going to cheat, and he'll purposely make the neder in order to get out of the obligation of redeeming her. And the Gemara continues, my love, isn't the Brisa talking about a situation of b'mader eshes Kohen? Aren't we talking about a situation where the husband who made the neder, he was a Kohen? This is the wife of a Kohen, and again, he's making a neder that his wife cannot get any benefit from him. He's creating this additional prohibition, again, an additional prohibition besides the prohibition that takes place because she was taken captive. And that's the case, b'mader eshes Kohen kamiflagi. This is exactly the case that they are arguing about. V'Abaya de'omer Rabbi Eliezer, and in that case, Abaya would follow Rabbi Eliezer, in other words, that he is obligated to redeem her. The Rava Damar Rabbi Yoshua, and Rava would follow Rabbi Yoshua, again, who says that there is no obligation. Rashi over here explains, my lav b'madir eshes Kohen. Aren't we talking about a case where the person here making the neder is a Kohen and the woman who is taken captive is his wife? But Kohen sheheder is ishto. We have to be talking about a Kohen who made a neder that his wife cannot get benefit from him. The Ibi Yisrael, because if we're talking about Yisrael in such a situation, so lo Amar Rabbi Eliezer pod. Let's say in a situation of a Yisrael who took a neder and he created this prohibition between him and his wife. So there, Rabbi Eliezer would certainly not say there's any obligation to redeem. Everybody would agree with Rabbi Yoshua that you don't have to redeem. Why? Because there again, the condition in the ksuba of Yisrael says specifically, that I'm going to marry you after I redeem you, and that's not possible over here if there was a neder. So nobody would say there's an obligation of redemption in such a situation. Ela b'kohen kaimin, and that's why it must be the machlokas talking about a kohen, where at least you can fulfill the tanai of the ksuba. Because again, by the wife of a kohen, after he redeems her, he returns her to her province. he doesn't return her to him as his wife. And in that case, there's a machlokas. Now that there was a neder, now that there was an additional prohibition that he created with a neder, that's the machlokas. Rabbi Eliezer, so in that case, Rabbi Eliezer poder. Rabbi Eliezer says he does redeem. V'afagav the isser davar acher garmla, even though there's an additional isser that's been created over here because of the neder. Layasser olav, that she's now prohibited him. V'abaye Rabbi Eliezer, and Abaye will say like Rabbi Eliezer. Abaye will say, no, we don't care about the fact that there's an additional isser. It doesn't make a difference. It says in the Ksuba, I'm going to return you to your province, and that can be fulfilled, and therefore there's an obligation. So therefore, Abaye's Rabbi Eliezer, v'Rava Rabbi Yoshua, T'yamar Heino Poda. Rava will follow Rabbi Yoshua, says there's no obligation to redeem. Hoel v'Isser davar acher gormla, because there's an additional isser in this situation. Again, the additional isser of the neder. And the Gemara continues, Lo no hacha b'mayaskin. And here, what are we talking about? Kagon shenodra ihi v'kayim lohu. The case actually is she's the one that made the neder, and he allowed the neder to continue. He did not redeem. He did not annul the vow. Rashi over here says hacha b'mayaskin, and kolomar means to say as follows. Liolam Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yoshua lav beplugsa de Abaye v'Rava pligi. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, they are not arguing in the same issue that Abaye and Rava are arguing about. V'i be'isr davar acher shelo al yedei neder. Let's say it would be talking about a prohibition, some additional prohibition besides the captivity that wasn't an oath. Inami, or let's say bekohenes al yedei neder. Let's say it would be a kohenes, and there would be a neder over here. Tekuli alma, then everybody could say Ike Abaye, Ike Rava. They'd either follow Abaye, they'd follow Rava. That's its own situation. But here is a unique situation they're arguing about. Here the case is she made the neder and he sustained that neder. Shamar Yiskayim, that he said the neder should be good. Or let's say he just simply was quiet and he didn't nullify the vow. B'yom Shamu, on the day he heard it. Uvi Yisrael pligi, we're talking about a situation of a Yisrael. V'tayim de Rabbi Yoshua. So now, what's the reason of Rabbi Yoshua that this neder over here says that he's no longer obligated to redeem her? Because Rabbi Yoshua holds he nosna etzba bein shina. What she did was she took her finger, she put it between her teeth, and she bit it. Kolomar means to say, that's an expression. Kolomar, he garma liatzma. She caused this all to happen to herself because she's the one that made the neder. Levatil tana. She ended up annulling the condition over here. The ksuba sheinani yachol likros b'Yisrael v'osvinach le'intu. Because now it's impossible. Again, this is a Yisrael situation. He can't marry her. Rabbi Eliezer says no. In this situation, hu nasan etzba bein shineli nashach shelo heferla, because of the fact that he did not nullify the vow, so he's really putting her finger between her teeth. So that's why this is a very particular machlokas over here between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. Again, kagon shenodra iva kayim lahu. The case is she made the neder, he sustained the neder. Rabbi Eliezer savar hu nosan etzba bein shineha. Rabbi Eliezer says he is the one that put her finger between her teeth, and therefore he should still redeem her. Rabbi Yoshua savar, but Rabbi Yoshua says no. He nasna etzba bein shina. She's the one that put her finger between her teeth. And the Gemara says, 1 second, Ihi nasna etzba bein shina. But if she's the one, according to Rabbi Yoshua, who put her finger between her teeth, if this is all her fault, so everybody agreed in that machlokas that she gets her ksuba. Why is that the case? Ksuba maya vidita. So the ksuba, why is she receiving the ksuba? And furthermore, another question on this explanation. It said in the Bryce, so Amar Rabbi Nasan, that Rabbi Nasan said, Sha'alti esumchis, that I asked Sumchis, K'shamar Rabbi Yoshua, nosin l'ksubasa, ve'eno poda. I asked Sumchis that when Rabbi Yoshua said that he doesn't have to redeem her, K'sheidiru levasof nishbis, is it talking about a situation where the neder came first and then she was taken captive? O benishbis levasof hidiru, or is it even in a situation where she was taken captive and then the neder was made? V'yomar lo shamati, and he said, I did not hear the answer. So now the question is, but then he went on to say that there's going to be a harama over here. The person's going to cheat, so it has to be that the neder came first. But 1 second, the Gemara says, if the case over here is not that the husband did the neder, he's not the one cheating and trying to get out of redeeming her, she's the one that made the neder. So mali hediru levasof nishbis, in that case, what difference does it make if she made the neder first and then she was captured? Mali nishbis levasof hediru, what difference does it make if she was captured first and then made the neder? So it's difficult to explain the machlokas in this fashion. And so the Gemara continues, Ela liolam da'adra ihu. Rather, what you have to say over here is really the case. Go back to what we said before. He is the one that made the neder. And again, there's a machlokas, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, whether he has to redeem her. V'abaye mitaretz l'taimei, v'Rava mitaretz l'taimei. And Abaye can answer according to his opinion, Rav according to him. Each one can say that the Tanoim agree with them. Abaye mitaretz l'taimei. Abaye will answer according to his reasoning. Almona l'kohen gadol. When it comes to the case of almona l'kohen gadol, again, that case before. So kuli alma lo pligi. Everybody agrees in that case there is an obligation obligation for him to redeem her, again, in that situation where she's being returned to her province. And Mamzeres and Nesina Yisrael, in the case of a Mamzeres and Nesina Yisrael, Kuli Alma Lo Pligi, De'eino Chayiv Liftosa. Everybody agrees in that case, again, this is within Abaya, everybody agrees in that case that he is not obligated to redeem her because he cannot marry her. And Madir Eishes Kohen Nami, and let's say you have a situation where you have a wife of a Kohen, and the Kohen is the one making the neder, so Kuli Alma Lo Pligi, everybody agrees in that case as well, Dechayiv Liftosa, that he would be obligated to redeem her, because again, the Tanai of the Ksub in that case is she goes back to her province. Dehainu Almana LeKohen Gadol, that's identical to the Almana LeKohen Gadol case of Abaya, where he has to redeem her. So what's the machlokas here of the Tanoim? Ki Pligi, when are they arguing? V'madir Eishes Yisrael. They're arguing specifically by a neder, by an Eishes Yisrael. Rabbi Eliezer Ozel Basar Meikara. Rabbi Eliezer goes by what was originally, meaning this neder came later on. So at the time that they wrote up the Ksuba, so there was still an obligation to redeem her. The fact that there's a neder that comes after the fact is not going to change anything. For Rabbi Yoshua Ozel Basar Basof, and Rabbi Yoshua will say, no, we follow what it is the state right now at the end. Right now there is a prohibition because of this neder, therefore he does not have to redeem her. And the Gemara continues, Rava Mitaretz L'Taimei. Rava also can answer according to his reasoning. Almana L'Kohen Gadol, when it comes to the case of Almana L'Kohen Gadol, Mamzeres U'Nesina L'Yisrael, when it comes to the case of the Mamzeres U'Nesina L'Yisrael, Kuli Alma Lo Pligi, everybody agrees, De'eino Chayiv Liftosa, he's not obligated to redeem her, because again, according to Rava, if there's an Isser Dover Acher involved, so then there's no obligation to redeem her. Ki Pligi, when do they argue? B'madir, in a situation of a neder specifically, is the machlokis, and when it comes to a neder, according to Rava, Bein Eishes Kohen or Bein Eishes Yisrael, doesn't matter if it's an Eishes Kohen, Eishes Yisrael, because again, Rava is the one that says, even by an Eishes Kohen, we say that if there's an Isser Dover Acher, there's no Chayiv to redeem, but the machlokis is again as follows, specific to neder. Rabbi Eliezer Azil Basar Meikara, again, Rabbi Eliezer says, yes, it's true that if the neder, it's true that if there's a prohibition in general, you don't have to redeem, but here that prohibition came later, but we follow Meikara, we follow what was at the beginning, at the time of the Ksuba, when the Ksuba was written, there was no neder, and therefore there's an obligation of redemption. For Rabbi Yoshua, Azil Basar Basof, and Rabbi Yoshua says, no, we follow what is the state, what is the status at the end, once the neder was made, so therefore, again, she does become prohibited to him, and it's al yedei davar acher, and therefore there's no obligation to redeem her if she's taken captive. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, Nishbis Chayiv Leftosa V'chulu. Again, the Mishnah said that if she's captured, so her husband has to redeem her from the captivity. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Nishbis B'chayiv Ba'al, if she's captured while her husband is alive. V'yachar kach meis Ba'al, and then her husband dies. So Hikir Ba'ala, so if the husband was aware of the fact she was taken captive, Yorshin Chayav and Leftosa, then the Yorshin, those who inherit her husband, they now have an obligation to redeem her. Lo Hikir Ba'ala, but if the husband was not aware, if he was not aware that she was taken captive, and Yorshin Chayav and Liftosa, so then the Yorshin are not Chayav to redeem her. And the Gemara continues, Levi Savar Lemevad Uvdo Kiyam Asni. So Levi thought to paskin a halacha exactly like this Brisa says. Amar Le Rav said to him, Rav said to Levi, Hachi Amar Chabibi, so says Chabibi, my beloved one. This is a reference to the uncle of Rav. This is a reference to Rabbi Chia. So says Rabbi Chia, Las Hilchasa Kiyam Asni. So the halacha does not follow this Brisa. Elo Kiyah Detanya. Rather, the halacha follows the following Brisa. Brisa says, Nishbis la'achar misas balo, if she's taken captive after her husband died, ein hayisomen chayav and liftosa, then the orphans do not have to redeem her. V'lo od, but not only that, ela afilu nishbis b'chayi balo, even if she's taken captive while her husband is alive, v'yachar kach meis balo, and then her husband dies, ein hayisomen chayav and liftosa, the orphans do not have to redeem her, she'ein ani korei bavos vinach lintu, because there I cannot fulfill what it says in the Tanai Ksuba. It says again, I will marry you, I will take you as a wife, but he has already died, the husband has already died, and therefore there's no obligation upon the Yisomim to redeem her. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Nishbis v'hayu mevakshin mimenu ad asora b'domel. Let's say I have a situation where she's taken captive, and they want even 10 times the amount of what she's worth in order to redeem her. Those who took her captive, they want an exorbitant amount of money in order to free her. So Pam Rishona Poda, so the first time he does have to redeem her. Mikan v'elach, but from then onward, Rotza Poda, Rotza Eino Poda. If he wants to redeem her, he could. If he doesn't want, there is no need. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, we'll take a look at Rashi over here, Rotza Eino Poda, again, if it's after the first time, he doesn't have to redeem her. Lo takinu bo Rabbanan elachad pidyon. Rashi explains, the Rabbanan only said that there is one redemption that is an obligation. The subsequent ones are not obligatory, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Beis Amud Beis.